Producers, you got to be careful out here in the music business. I don't know if you saw that video a couple months ago of a producer getting confronted by Dave East because he wouldn't send him beats back in the day, and now he was asking for a favor. It's crazy. You got to navigate a lot in this music business. It's not just about music. But that producer who was apparently getting confronted by Dave East because he was curbing him way back in the day, this is why I'm glad I didn't even make a video on it back then before I had his perspective, actually shared his perspective. He said he did try to reach out to Dave East multiple times to get in the studio with him back then.
That I know named Buddha. I spoke to all these people. I even reached out to Wayno. Shout out to Wayno. Wayno's somebody that I knew when I used to work at Def Jam. And Wayno was dealing with the whole thing like that. I even spoke to Wayno about you. And I never got a response from you at all. So that's the thing about it. So were you really looking to work with me? Or at that time, were you like every other artist who wanted to get next to camera?
And I didn't like how all the little clips of that incident got blown out of proportion and they made it seem like Skitzo was some type of no-name producer who had his hand out. Something seemed wrong. And there are two sides to every story. I'm a fan of Skitzo's production, the records he produced. I'm a fan of Dave East's music. Shout out to Dave East. He just did a feature for my friend Compound over a beat that I produced with Gabe Lucas. So let's talk about what could have gone down between the two and how producers can avoid getting trapped by these social dynamics, by the egos, by the miscommunication. Because I'm going to tell you, it's crazy existing in the music business in the age of the internet troll, when everything is rage bait, when everybody likes conflict. Even if there's no conflict there, they will create one. I've read some wild comments. I read a comment in, I'm not going to say whose channel, but it's a channel that does not like me. And one of the comments was something to the effect of DJ Pain 1 is an asshole. Fuck DJ Pain 1 because at one point I used to support his content and he would like my comments, but he would never write long responses to me. Some people, a lot of people are weird. And so you really don't know what you're getting yourself into when you're navigating both the music industry and the back alleys of the internet music community, whether you're a producer, whether you're a recording artist, a manager, a vlogger, a journalist, whatever. So seriously, be careful. Have you had weird stuff like this happen to you? I think it could happen to anybody, regardless of your status. But let's review that footage of the so-called confrontation.
I don't care about your artist. I be seeing you and I still show you love. We're not doing nothing. Because when I had no name, that's how you was acting with me. That is just a fact. You Skitzo, right? I know who you are.
We couldn't really hear it, but what was going on, Payne? Break it down.
So the initial narrative was that this producer named Skitzo refused to send beats to Dave East when Dave East wasn't famous. And then when the producer either wanted, a lot of people were making this confrontation out to be a producer trying to give Dave East beats, and Dave East saying, no, you didn't want to give me beats back when I was nobody, and now I'm going to treat you the way you treated me back then. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, that's how you're supposed to do it. I can't wait until I'm at that point. The tables always turn, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, in the video, you can see the one thing that you can make out is Davey saying, I know who you are. You're Skitzo, right? When I asked you for beats, ... One of the things that confused me is that, did you see that fluffy yellow thing in the dude's hands?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, I just don't understand fashion. But no, that's actually a puppet.
Yeah.
So Skitzo clarified later on. He's a producer. I guess I'd never seen his face. I've heard a lot of his music, though. He produced a lot of music for Cameron. So I think he was on the Purple Haze album. I've listened to a lot of that music. He says he knows Wayno through Def Jam. He used to work at Def Jam. I don't know what his job was at Def Jam, but Wayno is Davey's former manager. And he also told the story that Dave East rapped over his beats for a Sway in the Morning thing. I don't know what it was. And then he said they had each other's contact information, obviously, because they had met several times. Skitzo said he tried to email Dave East. I guess he posted receipts. He never heard back from Dave East. So there are two sides to every story, obviously, and people just take one story and run with it. You know, I think we did that. You weren't even on the episode, Dame. It was just Aaron and I, but there was another similar confrontation, and it was a rapper cussing out his producer over the phone. And then the producer reached out and he was like, he wasn't cussing me out. That shit had nothing to do with me. He was upset. And I'm like, every major platform covered that story and framed it as this rapper cussing you out for overcharging him for beats. So this, I feel like, is an opportunity for me to not jump the gun and cover the story and be like, Dave East confronts a producer for not giving him beats, because it doesn't seem like that's the full story. And the thing that we can't see is we can't see how they interacted years prior, because this seems like something that had been building up for years. I don't know if you get that sense, Dave, but we don't know what the energy was back then. Maybe the energy was weird. Maybe they miscommunicated. Maybe someone's not telling the full story. But when things get into the court of public opinion, especially on the internet, the narratives just go crazy. You can't control them. And I saw that Skitzo's conversation with a YouTube channel got very little traction compared to the first several postings of this so-called confrontation. And it didn't really feel like a confrontation if, you know, they shook hands or whatever. But from my understanding, it wasn't that Skitzo was trying to give Dave East beats. It was that he wanted to do a quick snippet of him interviewing or being interviewed by the puppet, the bird, which is like a thing that he does. And I think it's fairly popular, actually.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, you know, it sounds like Dave East was upset that back in the day, you know, Skitzo didn't want to give him free beats. But you're telling me that back then he was working with Cameron and he's on the Purple Haze album. You know, maybe that producer was doing well and he doesn't do free beats. You know, unless he was disrespectful about it. You know, I have no problem with a producer charging what they charge. If you operate your business how the best you see it fit. If you don't do free beats, cool. You know, some producers do. Some producers that have traction sometimes will still, you know, work and kind of see the potential in a younger artist and give free beats or work out some splits, what have you. So I don't know the full situation here, but unless he was disrespectful about it, I don't understand Dave Z's energy. I could understand like, hey, you didn't want to help me back in the day. I'm not helping you now. Like, okay, cool. It doesn't have to be a spectacle though. Like if that's the way you want to move, yeah. I just understand if a producer is working with big artists and doesn't do the free beat thing anymore, that's their prerogative. And if Dave East in turn takes that as disrespect and doesn't want to work with this person again, that's fine. It's kind of like how Russ approached some of the like blog platforms, right? He felt like he should have been covered earlier in his career. So when he got popping and blogs wanted to cover him, he basically was like, nah, I'm not going to do your platform. You didn't want to talk to me back in the day. That's not how I would handle those situations, but that's your right. You know, as long as people aren't getting disrespectful, things aren't getting physical, it is what it is. You know, I don't know. What's your lesson learned from this, Payne?
Well, I've been in this position many times where it's often just a miscommunication. You know, the episode we did last week where we talked about Charlie Rocket and how you need to talk to an artist so that you don't piss them off or you don't turn them off to a good idea, even if that idea is great for them and is going to benefit them. That's kind of the social landscape that you have to navigate as a producer working with artists or as an artist working producers, because we're all weirdos. And so I've worked with some weirdo artists who, for example, like an artist will reach out. A lot of artists are terrible with email. It was this one artist locally who I saw the other day. We're cool. Get your little ass up here. This is Kiki. She's on some bullshit right now.
You better tear your face up.
No, not her. And I just clipped her nails yesterday. But what was I going to say? So this artist was asking me for beats, and I sent him beats, right? And I don't think he got them, because then he would email me back, man, fam, why you don't never send me no beats? And it's like, I do. So then I would send more beats. And I think, again, I'm who I am. I don't like that type of shit where it's like, if I do something, the thing that I hate the most is when I do something and someone tells me to do that thing that I just finished doing. So I think at a certain point, I just stopped playing that game with him. And then all of a sudden I see on social media, he's like, I never work with that bitch ass motherfucker. He never sends beats. He doesn't fuck with me. He's trying to gatekeep. And it's like, what? So that's why I said, when we have these little snippets, these slices of life where you see someone confronting someone else in the music business over God knows what, we have no idea what led up to that. And it could have, and it probably was just a miscommunication or people misreading the energy. And that happens all the time. Like, people misread my energy all the time, because I'm one of those people that people are like, why don't you smile more? Like, shut the fuck up. I'm fine. You're making me unhappy by telling me that by imposing your discomfort onto me because you want me in the background just, like, get the fuck out of here. I am who I am. Stop telling people how to be. But that type of thing happens where they'll misread the energy and they'll be like, oh, this guy's an asshole. He thinks he's better than everyone. And really, I'm just sitting there thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner. And it just blows out of proportion. And then you get a situation like this. So I'm sympathetic to both sides because I really don't know. I don't know if maybe Skitzo phrased things differently, because I know he was feeling a way about artists approaching him because he was working with Cam. And so a lot of, when you start working with big artists, people are all in your shit talking about, oh, I want to work with you, but hey, can you give me a Cam feature? And so I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Or, he could have been a jerk too. I don't know.
So when you said he showed receipts, what receipts did he show? Did he actually send him beats and maybe David just not receive them?
Yeah, it was that, I think he made it seem like he was just unwilling to work with Dave East. Because that's what Dave was saying. He's like, when I asked you to send me beats, you didn't. Yeah. And he's like, well, no, I did. I tried to reach out and you never got back to me. That's what he was saying in the other interview where he's like, yeah, I even have his email address. And I think he was also annoyed that Dave gave him his email address rather than his phone number or something. So that's what I mean. That's a miscommunication. Like, I will give people my email if it's music because I just work that way. So maybe he interpreted Dave giving him an email address rather than the phone number as disrespectful or as dismissive. This is what I mean. Yeah. We don't know. But then this stuff gets blown out of proportion and we just see this one little moment and the internet just takes the narrative that's reported and runs with it, even if it's not true.
Yeah, I think that's what I just want people to know, is that there's a lot of miscommunication that can happen. Artists are quick to jump to, this person's disrespecting me, and now I need to go on not only the defensive, but the offensive, and things just spiral out of control. Like, I compare it to how me and Big Ja are moving right now. Like, I try to keep it cool with all these platforms. There's bigger platforms that don't want to work with us yet. It's cool. I'm not waiting to get to a point of like being on the same level as them and telling them that they can't work with us because they're not working with us now. Like, that's just never the approach that I would take, because I understand, why you don't want to work with us yet. And it's completely fine. But if you're just keeping a list of all the people that you think are disrespecting you or just don't want to work with you, and that's what's driving you, that when you get to a certain point, you're going to go down that list and shit on everybody that didn't want. If that's what you want to do, that's up to you, but that's not what I would suggest.
I was in a position to do that the other day, but I would have shot myself in the foot. It's so stupid. It was somebody, I don't want to say names. I want to be as vague as possible, but I had an opportunity to do something cool that I wanted to do. And then I realized someone that had kind of screwed me over in the past was involved. And then when I had a confrontation with that, when I had an encounter with that person, they were being cool. So I'm like, you know what? I'm getting paid. I'm having a good time. What you did 10 years ago doesn't affect me right now. And realistically, it doesn't affect me ever. So I'm not going to let my pride get in the way of an opportunity. And I just took the opportunity, and it was great. I had a great time, and I have no regrets.
Yeah.
You know, it's different if like you're working with someone who robbed you or is like a sex offender, and you're like, nah, we're not working together anymore. But this, you know, a lot of us in the music business, we have so much pride. We think everyone's ready to disrespect us. I'm guilty of that too. I'm speaking from experience. And really, it's just a miscommunication, or it's something that happened that's not that big of a deal. You can get past it. You want to tread lightly, fine. Be careful, be vigilant. But yeah, when you get to the point where you're just, like you said, Dame, where you're just only motivated by bitterness, that's not the way to live.
I would encourage people to have like direct communication as soon as possible if you're receiving like written communication as disrespect. Even if it, like, clarify things. People did I tell the story about my interaction with Van Lathan last week? Did I do that?
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, where you got on the phone with him.
Yeah, right away. Like I sent him.
Wait, I want to know what you said. What did you say to him that made him think you were being disrespectful?
Because him and I have been going back and forth probably for like he was supposed to over a year, because I met him in an airport and he was familiar with Ja. We exchanged. I think we just followed each other, and he was supposed to be on our Blackbusters podcast that we've currently, put on hold right now.
That would have been dope. Yeah.
Yeah, because he does movie review. He has his own movie review podcast, so we wanted him on. It never happened. Like, I've literally gone back and forth with him like many times. Now he has a podcast called Higher Learning with a young lady named Rachel and Lindsay, and we're trying to get Ja to be on that platform. And when I tell you, like, again, it's over a year just back and forth, and I'm just trying to time it to where something comes out. But he had to ask Rachel if it's okay, because it's partly her podcast. Just like with you, if I bring a guest on, I want to make sure you're okay with the guest. And I hadn't heard from him. So I think I made it what I thought was a joke. Or I wasn't really tripping. It was just kind of like, I guess Rachel's not feeling Ja's content or something like that. And he wanted to hop on a call immediately and kind of let me know it had nothing to do with Rachel not feeling the content. But I sent it kind of in jest, not tripping either way. Even if she felt offended by the content, like I wouldn't go crazy. Like, it's all good. I just move on to the next thing. Maybe the next project will be more in line with, but it was dope that he called right away and we hashed it out, because, it's those small little sparks that can eventually turn into wild flames. And if you don't stamp them out early, have those conversations, things could go wild. And now you're going back and forth with somebody on social media and it's public, and you just don't want stupid stuff to happen. So have conversations early as possible.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's another Dame diss track, like what happened with Cameron and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son.
Oh, yeah.
Those songs were dope, though.
You just don't want things getting out of control, man. There's just a lot of unnecessary stuff that happens, and the communication in the music space or in entertainment space is just bad. The people just don't know how to communicate,